And I know you're excited about our guest today.
Super excited about our guests. We have the amazing Tezra Bryant with us today. So I'm excited. We're going to get right into this.
I'm excited too because I don't know this industry very well. So go ahead.
All right. Well, here we go. Because Tezra is an award winning restaurant professional based in New York City. She is a restaurant operations consultant who assists restaurant owners with little or no experience to successfully launch their businesses. Welcome, Tezra, to the Stay on Course
Yes,
podcast.
thank you. Thank you. It's such a pleasure being here. I'm honored. Thank you for having me on,
Of
Neil and
course.
Juriga. Thank
Of
you.
course. This is great. So, Tezra, before we get started, keeping in the spirit of the restaurant industry, what is your favorite food?
Okay, so my favorite cuisine is Mexican food. Oh my goodness. But it has to be like specifically Tex-Mex, like
Oh,
refried beans with the tacos. Like that's my food right there.
that's
Because I'm
amazing.
from Texas. So
All right. Well, that's it. I mean, Mexican, Neil.
All right.
yes.
Let's rock and roll to the ingredients for success. But I'm ready to go. I'm ready to hear
All
this.
right. So today we're going to be talking about ingredients for success for restaurant owners. And Tezra, tell us, what is the first ingredient for success you want to talk about today?
Oh, okay. The first ingredient for a successful restaurant operation is having a healthy, conducive, harmonious work environment. The reason why is because if you have a certain standard that you want your team to perform, but you don't have the environment for which fosters or supports them in performing, then it's not going to happen. So you have to lay the groundwork. You have to lay that um, fertilized dirt, so to speak, for them to be able to flourish and bloom and deliver that service of what you are expecting and requiring from your team. So the conducive, harmonious work environment is the first ingredient to success of your operation.
So it's healthy, conductive, harmonious. There's a lot of words.
Yeah, the healthy, conducive, harmonious work environment, because the harmony comes when everybody just likes being there, right? They enjoy being around each other, is void of toxicity and gossip and all of those things that can contaminate the work environment. So that's why harmonious is really important in the conducive, harmonious work environment formula.
It
Absolutely.
makes sense because you have to have it systematic. If I look at a restaurant, and this is a weird restaurant example, the first way how McDonald's became successful with their systems and processes
Mhm.
from the beginning, they would not change. Every franchise had to be the same. If you're not a fan of The Founder, you have to watch The Founder. One
Oh,
of
I
the
saw it.
best movies out there. If you're feeling bad about sales, if you're feeling like nothing's ever going to happen for you, but ultimately looking at a system. And I think that Tezra, that's if you're looking at a restaurant that's not performing well, there's nothing harmonious about it, right? It's like in that restaurant Impossible. I've had him on my show before, and or even that bar rescue,
Bar rescue.
Mhm.
and I've had him on my show before. That basically, if things aren't going well, if your staff's not working right, forget it, right? If your staff's not doing well, your manager's not running it well, then the restaurant owner is not going to have success.
Right. And the reason why they may not be working well or performing is because maybe they don't feel good in the restaurant environment. So they have to be supported. They have to feel like I always tell my clients that your team, your employees are your number one customer. That's who your number one customer is. Because if they feel valued, if they feel heard, then you don't have to worry about anybody else who walks in that door behind them.
Yeah. And that kind of leads us to our next ingredient, sound management.
Down management. That's right. Because you're entrusting ideally you are entrusting your managers to run and set the tone and enforce your standards, right? So the managers are the people who are setting the tone. The owners could be absolutely wonderful people, but the owners should not be chained to their restaurant, right? They should be owners, and their managers are the people who are in charge of making sure that the restaurant is being ran correctly. But if the owners, who are wonderful people, are not there on the daily interacting with the staff daily, but the managers are low vibrational, negative Nunu-Nus. I don't want to say Nancy's. Nunu-Nus. Who's named Nunu-Nu? Nobody, right? So negative Nunu-Nus, then your team is not going to be happy within your establishment. And therefore, that genuine gold standard level of service is not going to be there, and your customers can feel that.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you know, the truth is, since COVID, we've had really bad service experiences, like really bad, to the point where I'm like, what happened to the good old days where people used to greet us with a smile and a hello? Welcome. How about
You
a
got to
welcome?
go to Texas.
How
Trust
about
me.
a welcome?
They're great service in Dallas. The restaurants in Dallas, some of them I've been to, unbelievable. That's because the restaurants are full. They're full to the brim when I was there a year ago or a year and a half ago. I mean, every restaurant's packed to the gills. And I wonder why. Because of population. There's a population that can go and afford restaurants. It all
Right.
depends on many different aspects. And one thing, Tezra, about New York restaurants are that you have to have it to that level or you're not going to survive at all, especially in New York City, right?
Well, you would be surprised, Neil. So I'm from Texas. And as a matter of fact, the restaurant that is responsible for my professionalism and my standard today, I got it from a restaurant in Austin, Texas,
Okay.
called Papa John's.
Austin's awesome. I went there once and I loved it. I'd love to go back to Austin. Beautiful.
Right. Right. So, but the reason why those restaurants are packed, right, on a consistent basis, because we are consumers of emotion, right? So if we go somewhere and we're treated like, oh my God, we are so happy that you're here, we're going to continue to go back to that place. And so here in New York, it's a little bit different, right? Because we're a little bit more cutthroat in New York. So to have that Southern hospitality is not something natural to New Yorkers per se. But what you will get from New York is the realness, right? Where people can really feel like they connect with you. So it's me pulling out both of those traits in the team to really make a cohesive and a conducive, harmonious work culture environment.
Okay.
Wow. Tell us the last ingredient you want to share tonight.
An objective approach. So especially with restaurant owners who are newer, this may be their first baby, they are highly emotionally attached, which could tank their business because they're not making decisions based out of objective business decisions of what is best for the business, but they're more attached to what they had in mind, you know, the type of decor or the type of food. But you may have a couple of items on your menu that is not working, or your whole entire menu could not be working. So instead of being emotionally attached to what your initial choices are, listen to your customer. They're going to tell you what they really want and what's really not working for you. So the objective approach is to be able to step back and say, let me look at the numbers, let me analyze the reports, and get the feedback from my team and say, okay, this is where we need to make shifts.
Yeah.
That's so important.
I love that. You know, sometimes I go to a restaurant and I'm thinking to myself, maybe I need to just have a conversation with the manager because this is really bad food. And if I could just tell them how to fix this, then maybe they'll be successful. I actually think this when I'm going to the restaurant, but then who wants to hear that from a customer? We would hope they would, but that's not always going to be accepted or received in the best light.
Julie, you bring up another good point. So this is what I also say, because a lot of the times when we receive like negative feedback or criticism or whatever, we want to discount it. Like, oh, they're just being picky, or, oh, you can't please everybody. But I say you always look for the veracity and where we do hold the ball of responsibility, where it may apply to us, because that customer is actually doing us a solid by letting us know where we are faulting. Now, granted, there are some people out there who just want to plain be haters. We got those, right? Haters are going to hate. We know that. But you have to be able to discern and differentiate between those that are really kind of valid issues and valid criticisms, as opposed to those who are just, they do not want to see you succeed. So it's kind of, again, but it goes back to the objectivity, right? So you have to be able to say, is there some truth to this? Let's look at this. I evaluate every single bad or negative review to see where we were culpable in this person's experience. Sometimes, honestly, we weren't. They just wanted to come in. They had a bad day. They just wanted to continue, their negative energy, and we don't take that on. But for those areas that we do, those are gems for us.
Yeah.
So the customer is doing us a solid.
Wow.
Can I tell a short story? I just want to tell something. So we were at a hotel just a few weeks ago, and we had this breakfast. And let me tell you, if it was a Michelin star breakfast, it was one of those breakfasts. So we stayed at this hotel and we went back the next day. We ordered the exact same thing. And whatever came out was not what we ordered the day before. And so I called over the manager and I said, what is this? I mean, like yesterday we had this, the only reason we came back was for this. And I said, I want you to know this, because whatever you did yesterday is what you need to be doing for every single client, because you will get like so much business, because that's the best freaking, and it was an omelet. It was a ham and cheese omelet, but the best hands down ham and cheese omelet I've ever had in my life. And I wanted him to know that. And I said, what happened? I go, what happened? I just want to know what happened between yesterday and today. And he comes and he says to me, he's like, I made that omelet yesterday. I said, well, you go in that kitchen. I said, you need to go in that kitchen and give that chef that's standing in the back there your exact recipe on how you did it and the love you put into it, because this is not it. And he was like, thank you for your feedback. But I needed to tell him this, because it's those little things that when we as customers, if the restaurateur or manager will hear from us, I'm happy to give that feedback. Not everybody's going to do that, because I come with the hospitality.
Right.
My father was in
100%.
the restaurant business and all that. But I love that story.
Totally. All right, Tezra, so did we go through all three ingredients, Julie?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Yes.
So Tezra, the thing that's the challenge of owning a restaurant is the margins, right? They're very, very low. So you have to really be systematic that your customers keep talking about it. We see certain restaurants that, they're always buzzing. There are always a ton of them, always full. And then you see restaurants that are hardly full at all. Like, especially during this economy, if you're going to a restaurant chain, even if it's a pretty cool restaurant that used to be packed, P.F. Chang's, not packed anymore. I'll just name so many of those restaurants that were restaurant chains that used to be packed. Let's say Red Lobster, even though it's closing all, used to be packed. Those restaurant chains are dying. But if you go to a restaurant that's really intriguing, exciting, something new cuisine, really on demand, it's packed.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because we are dining is more experiential now.
Yes.
Than it was before. Before, it was, you go in for your traditional order from your server, get your food, eat as a family, get your little drink on and go home. But now it's more experiential. And the one thing, Julie, that you just mentioned is consistency. Now, the chains, they're very consistent. But I think what happened with the chains is their management pool, talent pool, started to deteriorate. And when that happens, your operation is very hard to get it to perform on a high level, because your management team are the people who are in place to lead. So if they are performing at a low level, then the team beneath them, who actually have the one-on-one contact with your customer base, what do you imagine that they're going to do? So in the other realm, though, as far as like the independence, the consistency is huge. And Julie, you said something that was very important. When the manager said, because I cooked it, and you were like, okay, well, I need you to go back in there and talk to that chef and let him or her know exactly what you did and the love that you put in it. That's the part that cannot be duplicated. You cannot replicate someone else's love for what they do. So it's like you have to, and that goes back to the healthy, conducive, harmonious work culture environment. Your staff, especially the kitchen, has to love what they do. They have to feel valued. They have to
Yes.
feel heard
100%.
because not, they're
Yes.
just going to put stuff together and it translates into the food.
Yeah,
Right.
it's true. You know what? I got to tell you this. I honestly, we could talk about this for an hour. It's not enough time, but my daughter, every time I make her some food that she doesn't like, you know, she says to me, she goes like this. She goes, Mom, you just didn't put the love into it.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it's really the hospitality restaurant business. My father said it all the time. You must love what you do.
Love what you do.
You
Yep.
must love this. You must love people. You must love service. And you must love this environment. It has to be happy because that energy is coming into the realm of the experiential. Everyone that's coming into that restaurant is coming in for an experience to feel good, to feel happy, to enjoy a meal. Like, this is fun stuff. Eating is fun.
Mhm.
So we need to have
It is.
employees that are going to give that energy off to the customers.
Awesome.
You know, eating, can I just say one thing? And eating is so much fun. Like breaking bread with each other is so much fun because, and I tell my staff, you know, you think that your job is not important. You think that being a server or being a bartender, like whatever. I said, but this is how important your job is. When we were in the pause, in the COVID pause, what is the one thing that people wanted to do that they no longer could do?
Go out to eat.
Go out and eat. So this shows you how important your job is because when they went out and eat, they just didn't go out and not, you know, interact with anybody and just sat at a table and ate. No, they had their server to tend to them. They had the bartenders to converse with them and to chop it up with them. So the serving industry is very, very important to people's mental health and emotional well-being.
It is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it's a weekly. Like, I'm sure you guys, how many times a week do you go out to eat? I could tell you it's at least 2 or 3 sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
Tezra, this has been amazing. Tell us where our audience can find out more about you.
Okay, you can find out about my website is therestaurantmc.com, and you can find me on Instagram at the.restaurant.master.consultant.
All right.
Thanks, Tezra. Thanks for
Appreciate
being on the
Tezra.
podcast.
All right.
All right, thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here.
You're welcome. That was a special simulcast of Neil Haley